What's up guys, it's Bennett from T-Rex Space Station. How's everyone doing? Thought I'd give a bit of an update today about my Super Famicom collection. Anyone who's been watching this channel for a while will know that I grew up with the Sega Mega Drive. I was a Mega Drive kid, and the whole other side of the 16-bit era just completely passed me by. But really in the last couple of years I've been conscious that I probably missed out on some really good games, and I decided to get myself a Super Famicom, see what all the fuss is about. And I bought some of the games that I thought would be like, you know, people's recommended suggestions for the system, or games that people really loved. Here is the system. The thing with Super Famicoms is they probably looked really lovely and white when they first came out, but now they go this kind, I'm not sure if you can see it too easily, but they go this really kind of horrible yellow color. I'm not really that bothered about how it looks itself in terms of the fact that it's yellow. I could try to retro bright it if I could figure out how to do that. But otherwise it's in pretty good nick. And one of the good things about getting a Super Famicom as opposed to an SNES, if you have got a Sega Mega Drive already, a PAL Sega Mega Drive, you can buy a console-only console and get yourself a reasonable discount. You know, it's a lot cheaper than buying one with all the gubbins. Your Sega Genesis power cable, your plug, will work in this off the bat, so that's kind of good. And I think that meant that I got a pretty good deal on that. I'm not sure how much I paid for it now. It was like a year or so ago, but not a whole lot. And obviously you need to get yourself a decent RGB cable if you want to see good quality stuff out of it. The first thing that I got for it was the Super Game Boy. I actually originally bought the system because I wanted to really see my Game Boy games on the full screen, and it's a good way of capturing your Game Boy games as well. I was doing some reviews of like R-Type and stuff, and yeah, I probably would prefer, my go-to would be to play my Game Boy games on the big screen using the Super Famicom rather than on the Game Boy itself, although I do sometimes pick up the Game Boy, just then it's like, oh, have I got batteries and all that kind of other carry on. For those of you who know about these, you probably may have heard that there are some issues with the speed of the games. The games don't run at their original speeds using on the Super Game Boy, the first iteration. You need to get the second one, the Super Game Boy, Super Game Boy 2, which I don't have, if you're bothered about that kind of thing, but your games may be slightly off if you play it on there. I actually started out buying games, and probably I should have started where the good stuff was, but I wanted to see if there were any shmups, so I googled what good shmups were. So the first game that I bought for it was this one, which is, I think it's called Area 88. Because it was kind of recommended on various forums. I've got to say, it's not really doing it for me. It's okay, but it's incredibly difficult. It's a game essentially where the idea is to you can pick different stages. You've got to kind of win this battle and stop this enemy attack from destroying your base. I think you get money at the end of the level, so you can kind of upgrade your ships and buy ammo and stuff. But yeah, it didn't do it for me. And then I was like, you know what? Don't focus on the shmups, focus on, say, the games that people would say, this is what you need to get a Super Famicom for, these are the really good titles. Let me start off with this absolute gem, Super Metroid, which I played through. So the problem with this was, I actually bought it over a year ago, and the thing with these games, this one came out, 1994, this has a save game in there, and it uses a battery. And for many of the games from this era, the batteries run out over time, and so I found out, unfortunately, much to my dismay, that I couldn't save. So it sat there in the corner for quite a long time, until I decided to finally get off my arse and figure out how to replace the battery. And so I put a new battery in this. It requires quite a bit of fiddling and some soldering and some careful teasing off of connections. There are probably better ways of doing it, but basically I found a tutorial online. It took me about maybe an hour to do it, and I think if I was to do it again, it'd be a bit faster. But it is doable. But anyway, that aside, people have said this is one of the best video games of all time. And I gotta say, I find it hard to disagree with the rave reviews of this game. This game completely blew me away. It sold me on the Super Famicom. It's made me realize why people love this system. This kind of game wasn't there for those of us who were on the Sega Mega Drive side of things. I don't think so anyway. I mean, I know there were Castlevanias on the Mega Drive, and people have made this Metroidvania term, but it's not the same. And yeah, I played through this game. It took me a couple of weeks. I loved every minute of it. I'm really sold on Metroidvanias in general at the moment. I played Axiom Verge recently, and that really got me appreciating that kind of mechanic of slowly unlocking abilities which let you go a bit further in the world. Since playing this, I've played through Metroid Fusion and a few Zero Mission, Metroid Prime. I've got obsessed on them, honestly. But this isn't where it started officially, because you had the NES one that came before it. The NES one doesn't hold up, in my opinion, so well to modern days, but this is a classic. I loved it. I actually am tempted to go back through with a guide and try and play it again, and unlock everything. I think I got like 67% of the collectibles when I finished it. I keep holding it up in the wrong place. I got like 57% of the collectibles when I finished it, but I would love to go back and do it again and just unlock absolutely everything. I think that would be amazing to do, and people who do speed runs of it and 100% runs of it, they're kind of heroes, because that is not easy to do. Some more classics. Super Mario World. I had Sonic the Hedgehog growing up, and the people on the other side had Super Mario, and I did really love Super Mario Land on the Game Boy. That was kind of what I played as a kid. This is an incredible game, and it takes a bit of getting used to for someone like me who's not been so he's not really been involved in the 16-bit era Mario games before. It did take a bit of getting used to. There's a lot of easy ways to die in it, like bouncing shells in the wrong place, and I'm sure that all this stuff is like really old knowledge to people who know exactly where to put the power-ups and what kind of order to do things in. I don't, and so I'm constantly dying by like accidentally bouncing a shell off something in front of me or falling down. So there's a little bit of stuff to get used to when you first come to it, but this is incredible. It's on the same level as that kind of talisman game that sold systems, and this is 1990. I couldn't believe that it's 1990. It still looks so kind of modern in many ways. Graphically, it's got a really interesting style to it, and it's bloody challenging. I've got to say, it's really quite challenging. I'm planning on beating it. But it's taking a lot of work, and I'm not able to get that far into it. I do kind of come a cropper at certain points. I get stuck, and then sometimes I get stuck and I've not got enough lives or things, and I'm like, I'll have to start again and just do a little bit better. But I'm working on it, and well, it's absolutely incredible. At the same time as buying that, I also bought, can I turn around? Super Donkey Kong. Yeah, and this is an incredible game. This is the first. There were 3 of them on the SNES or Super Famicom. 1994, so a bit of a later title. I mean, what can I say? This is phenomenal as well. I've spent a really good amount of time on this. I've got pretty damn far into it. They really didn't mess around with the difficulty level in their games back in the day. It's another one that I ain't beating anytime soon. I gotta say, it is tough. There are some pretty, would I say cheap? Borderline cheap ways of dying in that game. They throw everything at you to try and stop you from progressing and kill you, including some quite difficult mine cart bits where you've got to jump at exactly the right moment and try not to get killed. It's tough, but it's also fair. It controls really tightly. It plays beautifully. If you look at all of the hype around this game when it came out, it was funny, because it's kind of like that kind of pseudo 3D or pre-rendered graphics that look very different to anything you would have seen at the time, and it's an absolute gem. And I'm not going to buy 2 and 3 until I've beat this one. It deserves a bit of dedication and a bit of time, but I'm going to get there with it, and it's just such a fun game to practice, and I will get good at it. And when I can finally beat it, I'll probably do a gameplay video of me working my way through it on here. Okay, here is the game that started it all, Super Mario Kart. I wanted to buy this because I've been really into the Mario Kart series, really from the 64 era, 64 and then Nintendo Wii in particular. I haven't actually had a chance to boot this up yet and play through it. I know it's a classic. I know that a lot of the tracks here are so good that they featured in later games. I know this game got a lot of things right, and again, another absolute gem. I wasn't that into the racing games that I had on the Sega Mega Drive back in the day. I don't remember there being that many good cartoony or kart racer games. I mean, there was obviously Virtua Racing and Super Monaco GP and stuff, But I would have been into this as a kid. So I'm really looking forward to playing this and seeing where the whole thing began and seeing what kind of started that trend and the obsession. And I know that I'm going to love it. I just haven't had chance to sit down and turn my attention to it properly yet. Next up, you will have seen me playing quite a bit of this. I did a live stream going back a year or so of this one, and this is Castlevania IV. Again, I haven't been a big Castlevania person, probably because I wasn't a big Nintendo person. Although I do know that there are some on the Sega Genesis, but they're super rare. They're getting easy to get hold of. They're expensive as well. This is a really, really good game. And as you know, with the Castlevania series, it holds no prisoners. It's not easy. You probably saw me getting stuck quite early in the game on my live streams. And I'm now able to get quite a bit further than that. But again, it's a case of, yes, you may be able to get kind of far, but getting far well in terms of having good power-ups is a different thing. Because many of the bosses go down super easily if you've got the right power-ups, or really difficultly if you don't. So I'm chipping away at that. I'm getting further and further. There is a password system so that you don't have to keep restarting. I think that I'm probably somewhere near halfway through, but I've been continually surprised by some of the graphical things it can do. There are some really interesting rotating tunnels and interesting twisting of sprites and things that they do in there, which are really impressive and things that I don't remember seeing before, in that generation. Not very much anyway. They've done some very interesting little graphical twists. When did this bad boy come out? 1991, yeah. I mean, these games are really old and they still look so damn good. Now, last but not least, get my teeth in, Megaman X, or if you're going in the Japanese term, it's Rockman X. And oh my god, this is incredible. I've been spending a lot of time with this game in the last few days. I can't believe that I missed out on this back in the day, because it's superb. It's really everything that I would want in a pixel art kind of 16-bit generation sprites. Everything looks so colourful. The worlds are designed really, really well. As you know, like all Mega Man games, you face off against various different bosses that you can choose the order of. It's very punishing if you don't know what you're doing, so probably best to be played with a little bit of a guide in terms of which bosses are weak to which guns, which is what I've been doing. I've beat the first 8 bosses and now I'm on to like the final 4 stages. I've loved every minute of it. I don't even care if I keep dying because the worlds are so colourful, they look so good. It is just incredible, and the music, guys, I've got to tell you, it's up there. It's really up there. I've been kind of thinking about jamming some of the songs on my guitar, maybe doing some guitar covers. But yeah, I'm really into the Super Famicom. I'm amazed by these titles. One final word that I would say is if you're interested in getting into Super Famicom or SNES, you've got to choose carefully what system you're going for. One of the problems is that people seem to have like a Nintendo fetish at the moment. Like the cost of PAL or American Super Famicom and original Nintendo, not Super Famicom, sorry, Super Nintendo and original Nintendo games are so expensive, crazy expensive. If you go for the Japanese games and get a Super Famicom, they are so much cheaper. Like Rockman X, this was like a tenner. You look at the cost for a PAL version, it's expensive, 40 quid or more. That's the way to do it if you ask me. It's a lot cheaper. Now obviously one of the difficulties is going to be when it comes to trying to collect some of the RPGs that are in Japanese. There are ways around that which I might touch on in the future. Kind of expensive ways around that, but in terms of like the overall cost, it may still be cost efficient to patch ROM files on your original cartridges. It may be, because of the cost that these games are in PAL and Super Nintendo territories. So there we are, that's my Super Famicom collection. I'm loving this system, guys. Any recommendations of games that I should buy next, let me know and I'll take a look and probably consider getting them. Alright, take care guys, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.